All right, welcome to this explainer. Look, we all know ethical breaches happen in big pharma, but have you ever wondered how those scandals actually show up on the balance sheet? Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating area of the biotech and pharma world. We're looking at exactly how this massive global industry measures the true financial cost of noncompliance and, well, bad behavior. Let's get right into it. So here's our main question for today. How do we actually track corporate misconduct when it finally hits the bottom line? Because, it's one thing to read a headline about a major scandal, like an unapproved drug trial, but it is entirely another to see exactly how much that scandal costs the company in cold, hard cash, and, more importantly, how they are legally required to report it to the public and to their investors.
To answer that, we're going to use the SASB accounting framework as our lens. Now, I know accounting standards sounds a little dry, but this framework actually translates those rules into the real-world financial stakes of compliance failures. It mandates that companies report specific sustainability-related risks. And what's so powerful here is that it forces organizations to put a precise, auditable dollar amount on the consequences of unethical actions. It literally strips away all the PR spin.
Okay, here's our agenda for today. We're going to quickly cover 1. The cost of noncompliance, 2. Clinical trials abroad, 3. False marketing claims, 4. Corruption and bribery, 5. Codes of ethics, and finally, 6. The bottom line.
Starting off with Section 1, the cost of noncompliance.
Notice how strictly these financial penalties are categorized. We're talking about mandatory confessions of financial consequence here. This includes civil actions like massive class action settlements, regulatory proceedings, which might mean disgorgement, forcing a company to give up illegally obtained profits, and of course, criminal actions involving strict restitution. But take a look at that last bullet point. It purposely excludes the company's own legal defense fees. Think about that for a second. If a company spends $20 million on high-powered lawyers just to pay a $2 million fine, the framework wants investors to see that pure $2 million penalty cost, completely unclouded. It is the raw cost of the bad behavior itself.
Moving on to Section 2, clinical trials abroad in developing countries.
So looking at metric HCBP 210A3, straight from the source material, we see a really targeted requirement. Companies have to tally total monetary losses from legal proceedings, specifically in developing countries. And the standard doesn't just, guess which countries. It uses the priority countries defined by the Access to Medicine Index. This is absolutely crucial because these regions often have more vulnerable populations and sometimes less strict local oversight. So, if a pharma entity is running trials there and gets hit with a legal judgment or settlement, every single dollar lost to those proceedings must be explicitly reported. It shines a massive spotlight on international research practices. But behind every spreadsheet metric is a real-world legal drama. Companies can't just drop a huge penalty number into a report and walk away. They must explicitly detail the nature of the judgment. Was it a guilty plea? A deferred prosecution agreement? They also have to describe the context. Imagine a trial that rushed through a rural village without properly translating the informed consent forms. The penalty isn't just a number. It's a story of a failure. And most importantly, they have to detail exactly what corrective actions they took in response. Did they completely overhaul their translation protocols? This basically transforms a raw financial number into a compelling narrative of accountability.
All right, Section 3, false marketing claims and off-label promotion.
This brilliantly illustrates a risk and rule framework built right into the standards. On one side, we see the stark financial penalty. Metric 270A.1 tracks the exact monetary losses from legal proceedings over false marketing. But paired directly with it is the rule, metric 270A.2, demanding the disclosure of the internal code of ethics meant to govern off-label promotion. Let's pause on that. Off-label promotion, like, say, marketing a blood pressure medication to treat anxiety, can be incredibly lucrative in the short term, but it carries massive legal risks. This pairing forces companies to show not just how much money they lost to lawsuits, but what internal rules they supposedly had in place that failed to stop it.
Section 4, corruption and bribery involving healthcare professionals.
Here again, we see this incredibly effective dual reporting structure. Metric 510A.1 tallies the sheer financial losses from fraud or bribery proceedings. If a company is caught paying kickbacks, like flying a doctor out to a luxurious conference in the Bahamas just to prescribe their drug, that financial bleed is reported right here. But right beneath it, metric 510A.2 demands the public disclosure of the ethics code governing interactions with healthcare professionals. So you have to report the cost of the corruption and, in the exact same breath, explain the rules you use when interacting with the people who prescribe your products.
And it's really crucial to look at how broadly healthcare professionals is defined here. It is not just your local doctor. It tracks interactions with physicians and nurses, absolutely, but also purchasing agents, practice managers, and even massive group purchasing organizations. Basically, anyone who recommends, prescribes, or arranges for the purchase of the company's products falls under this umbrella. It's the whole shebang. This leaves zero loopholes for backdoor incentives, meaning a company's anti-bribery codes have to cover a massive, highly complex web of industry relationships.
Let's hit Section 5, Codes of Ethics. Okay, to avoid those massive monetary losses we just talked about, companies have to establish clear, auditable mechanisms for compliance. According to the standard, they need to detail these steps. Step 1. Enforce strict disciplinary actions and utilize internal compliance review committees. Step 2. Conduct rigorous internal audits to catch bad behavior before the regulators do. And Step 3, mandate specific compliance training. But it doesn't stop there. They actually have to track the degree and frequency of that training. The main takeaway here, under this framework, a code of ethics isn't just some dusty document sitting on an HR portal. It is an active, trackable system designed to protect both the patient's well-being and the company's bottom line. Finally, Section 6, the bottom line. So this leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on. When we mandate companies to report these financial penalties so transparently, whether it's clinical trial violations, false marketing, or bribery, does it truly prevent corporate misconduct? Or does it simply turn unethical behavior into a calculable cost of doing business? I mean, by putting a precise price tag on bad behavior, we absolutely give investors clear, comparable data. But we also have to ask ourselves if sunlight is truly the best disinfectant here, or if these metrics just create a cleaner, more organized spreadsheet for the cost of breaking the rules. Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you walk away with a much clearer understanding of how the real cost of corporate behavior is measured.